On the previous episode of the K-swapped FD build, Andy modified the subframe slightly to move the steering rack away from the oil pan. We put on some new engine accessories, bled the brakes and clutch line, and continued to button up the car, until we found the exhaust manifold was warped. Irv machined it straight, and we moved on to the fuel system. I put in a new fuel pump, fuel rails, and injectors. I then painted the firewall to ensure it wouldn't rust, and put on a much prettier valve cover from K-Tuned. Then Andy dove deep into the wiring harness to get the engine to fire up. We found issues with the intake manifold and got those fixed. I then ran out of time, so I had to leave the FD in Wisconsin for a few weeks for Andy to work on it off camera.
So Andy's been working on the FD for a few weeks now. I am going to go to the shop. We're gonna be here for about a week, and we're gonna finish the build. Andy's been sending me some clips of the FD starting up and running a little bit, so that's super cool. I'm really excited to see the car. Yeah, so hopefully in this episode we're gonna finish it. There's my beautiful FD outside. Oh, it looks so good out there. Yes, so good to see this thing again.
Still need to touch up a few things yet, but it does start and it runs on its own, and it does move on its own. You've got working headlights, working turn signals, all the interior stuff's back and working, the windows, the wipers, all that stuff. So yeah, that took us a few days to kind of go through and figure out this spaghetti mess, but I think we got it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a car. It still looks like a project car, but it looks like a car.
Yes, there's the list is still definitely long, but making progress.
Andy got a lot done, but there's still a long list of things to do to this car. It's hard to describe which we should do first.
The first thing actually is to make that list and to figure out a plan of what to do, because there's just so many small things that your head will just spin just thinking about it all. So I think we just need to make the list and then devise a plan on what we're gonna do and just kind of keep knocking each little task off the list. Adding to the list, we're gonna get the windshield glued back in. That's just held on by duct tape. Oh, change oil, engine oil.
We've got a long list ahead of us, but we're going to tackle each item one at a time. Laying everything out helps us to stay on track of what needs to be done first. And first, we need to put the exhaust on so we can check the clearance against some of the coolant lines. And naturally, it doesn't fit right. The exhaust is 3.5 inches in diameter, which is way too big. We should only need 3 inches for the power we're gonna make. The 3.5 inch exhaust is too big to fit well within the trans tunnel and engine bay against the heater core. So we'll need to order some parts to fab up a new downpipe with a flex pipe and a 3 inch diameter all the way back. That will have to wait until later. We'll leave this on the car for now.
This, with no flex pipe, that's like saying that tailpipe has to stay perfectly true, straight all the way up to here.
Yeah.
Can you hold something that far out and hold perfectly still? Like, it gets harder and harder the further away it is.
Yeah.
There needs to be something there that flexes.
Sounds like a Civic.
The exhaust doesn't sound too bad, but we can't really check that item off the list, and we've just added a few more items to the list as a result. Let's move on to putting coolant in the car to make sure there's no leaks and the car can keep itself cool. Looks like it's time to make an advance run.
After getting the cooling system kind of finished to the point where the engine could run and maintain temps, got the fans wired in with the relay. From there, I think we did the alignment because the alignment was very far off. It was kind of sketchy driving it. Ended up having, I think, what, like 3 inches of toe in or something. So got just a base alignment on there so it can be driven normal.
Andy gave the car a street alignment, then dialed in the bass tune a little bit more now that we have coolant in the system before taking it out for a quick test drive. We're making our way through the list, but there's still a few items left to finish up on the cooling system. I ran to Advance Auto for a coolant temp sensor, among other things. I was actually shocked they carried the part in store. FD parts are very rare to find.
They actually had a coolant temp sensor for an FD.
Really?
Yeah.
The cooling system is now complete. Andy even got the radiator fans wired up with the new temp sensor. Not so bad for one day's work.
He doesn't want to be up there.
It's really hard to describe all of the extra work that needs to be done to this car. It's easy to look at it and see that it's running and driving and thinking, what else is left? I mean, it's running and driving. What more could you ask for? Well, the first thing we can ask for is coolant. So we've got an overflow tank, which is the OEM overflow tank. We're gonna put that in. There's a couple leaks and some stuff here and there, so we're just gonna get those sealed up. He's putting some silicone on those right now.
There's a lot of stuff on the car that works, that could be done better. You know, there's a lot of little pieces that maybe could be done to be more efficient or maybe increase the driver feel, you know. So at this point, we're trying to just make everything run, get it all working so we can kind of keep making progress.
It would be unavailing to talk about each and every item that we did to the car to get it closer to completion. Quite honestly, Andy was moving too fast to even capture it on camera. A lot of the work remaining was electrical. Items that aren't very visually pleasing to watch because it's mostly just Andy pulling some wire out, cutting it, splicing it, heat shrinking it, putting a sensor on, and then doing it all over again. Fan control, oil pressure sensor, flex fuel sensor, idle air control valve installed and wired in, wideband, and so on and so forth.
We've got oil pressure now, we've got our flex sensor working, we've got idle air control valve wired in, hooked up, and tested and fully working, wideband. So now we're kind of just starting to do the base tuning, get all the basic engine stuff kind of set up, make sure the VVC is working, the fans, all that stuff, just all that simple stuff on a standalone you kind of have to set up from scratch essentially. So we're getting all that stuff taken care of and then maybe move to the dyno soon.
Before we put this car in the dyno, we want to make sure it's not going to blow up immediately. So we check over everything we've done and give it some fresh new fluids to clean out the system. But we've also forgot one major item.
The windshield is not affixed to the car. I don't know if I think I mentioned that in the initial video of the FD, but we just had it taped on so that it didn't leak when it's sitting out in the rain or anything. But now we're actually gonna put it on. Normally we'd have like a glass guy do this, but you know, they're not always available. And when you have Irv, who's talented in many things, machining and also installing windshields, he's gonna put this on.
Just like Andy, Irv is a man of many talents. He wanted me to tell you that he is not a qualified windshield repair tech. But I think he's lying, because he knew exactly what to do and had all of the tools to do it. I'm so privileged to be surrounded by awesome people like Andy and Irv. They've taught me so much and continue to surprise me with the knowledge and the skill that they have. Irv even put a warranty on his work.
You're gonna get a taillight warranty?
Taillight warranty?
Yeah. As soon as my taillights are gone, the warranty's off.
Yeah, so the car's running very well, and the next stop is the dyno, so see what we can do for power. We're gonna die tonight. No, we're gonna dyno tonight. Yeah, it seems like it's running pretty good. The only thing I'm nervous about is how much boost it's gonna run. I have no idea what springs are in those wastegates, and I'm afraid it's gonna be like 15 plus PSI on pure wastegate, and it's gonna make too much power. Honestly, you know what my power goal is? The least amount. spent a lot of time prepping the ECU before we even got on the dyno. So starting with that usually makes the dyno part go pretty easy.
The goal with this dyno session is to get the car making the least amount of power possible. We want to start small so I can drive the car around town for a few weeks or months and sort out small issues without anything catastrophic happening. My goal with this swap wasn't to make a bunch of power anyway, so we'll start off small.
We have too much boost. We're hitting about 250 some kPa. I think that's close to like 20 some PSI. That's gonna be too much. So I think we're gonna have to pull the wastegates out and put different springs in it. My tuning strategy is to set a boost limit. Well, the first time getting into boost, I hit that boost limit right away. But we took the wastegate apart to see what wastegate spring was in it. It turns out there's 3 springs in it. Probably would come out to like a 30 some PSI spring. I think this explains why we were running. You wanted all the boost.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well the good news is we can just run the little one. There you go. All right. Well, I don't think I'm gonna need to be buying any wastegate springs anytime soon. That's for sure. I mean, we're set. We don't need a boost controller. We can just set whatever we want. We've got Tile's full wastegate supply.
We took out the 2 stiffest springs and left the softest small spring in there, which is probably like a 6 PSI spring.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
First pull, 165 kPa, nice, clean, solid pull. Made I think 350 horse right away. AFRs ended up being almost perfect right away. And from there, I think I made 2 little small tweaks and ended at 365 wheel horse, and that was it. I think we only did 3 power pulls. 365 wheel horsepower is the least amount of power that car will make. This is our lowest boost setting, so from here we can definitely ramp it up. I know everyone's gonna say that's not enough power. Well, in a 2,500 pound car, 365 horse on a very untested car with lots of custom fabricated parts, that's plenty of power for now. I think just getting some miles on it, building confidence in the car, making sure it can handle that power before throwing 500 horse at it, which I'm confident we could make 500 horse if we wanted to. But I don't think the car's ready for it yet.
It's the last day here at Andy's shop. This is where I'd normally say we're nowhere near done with this car, and the car will never be done because it's always an ongoing project forever. But that would seem almost cliche at this point since I've said that so often. So instead, I'll say we're nearly done with phase 1. We've gotten the car running and driving well, and we're actually making some horsepower. With any project, you want to drive it around on the street to find out any small issues and really refine the car. Phase 1 was about getting the car to that point. So these last few items that we're going to tackle are more about making the car more road legal.
Pack's all working, and we even have the actual mileage of the car now coming up. Had to ground 1 extra pin behind the cluster.
The headlights also need to be functional for the street. Thankfully, that didn't take too long to figure out.
I'm gonna break it already.
I might not be an engine purist, but I do want the pop-up headlights to stay. They're kind of a pain to deal with, but it's so cool. I got brand new OEM headlight covers to make sure everything fits up perfectly.
Genuine parts. Primer! Woo!
And with that, this car is ready to take to the street. I know the car looks pretty rough. It's time to take it back to my home state in Virginia and make this car look better.
Alright, well, I am very clearly back in my home garage now. I've got the FD pulled in here. It's a lot tighter of a space to work in than Andy's shop, but what we're going to do today is change out some of the bumpers.
I've always liked the look of the feed style body kit on an FD, so I decided to get the front fenders and front bumper. These fenders are 1 inch wider than stock, and they look great. Unfortunately, the fitment on these parts were not so great. I was pretty upset at how poorly they fit, so I called in my friend Steve from Choice Collision to help me get these parts to fit up. We spent hours on this off camera, but the end results turned out pretty good. Now it's time to turn this car all one color.
So I'm gonna wrap the FD. As much as I want to paint it, I don't have the time to take everything out. So I'm gonna wrap it, but I'm not really sacrificing because wraps are pretty daggone good. There's a lot of awesome colors to choose from. There's a lot of like metallic looks to these. Like, take a look at this. You can see metallic flake in this wrap. It's super cool. That looks a lot like paint. And I'm not saying that this is gonna look exactly like paint, but it's gonna look pretty daggone good for the time being until I can actually take the engine out and spray the bay. So we've got a lot of different colors to choose from. I'm going with 3M because I've heard very good things about the quality of 3M wraps. I'm going with this one, Dragonfire Red. I think it's sweet. It's got like a very deep red, but at the same time it's very bright. It's got a lot of depth to it, and it's got a lot of metallic to it, so it looks a lot like actual paint. And yeah, let's get started.
I took the FD to Illusions Wraps. They have an awesome reputation, and they specialize in graphic vinyl wraps, so this single color wrap job should be a piece of cake for them.
Ben's doing the RX7 wrap because he essentially wants to get it painted in the future. So this is a perfect example of what it's good for. The wrap is made to be removed. So whatever you do, you're looking at 3 to 5 years for a nice quality looking wrap.
You may notice different wheels that I have on the car. These are just some conic decograms that I borrowed from my friend Mark. They're just on the car for me to check fitment and see what size I need to order up. I think they look pretty good, honestly.
We are using 3M 1080 series Dragonfire Red. It is a metallic film. It is the highest grade cast film that you can use. Very stretchable.
Before the wrap is applied, it's important that all surfaces are clean of debris.
I'll say this is 99% alcohol. We usually use this when we bring vehicles in. It kind of gets rid of dirt, grime, whatever may be on it after we wash it. But you just take a clean rag, go over it. Make sure you put a little elbow grease in it, get everything off, and then it's ready to wrap.
So the material contracts and expands. So when you go to pull it over a surface or curve, I mean the whole body on that thing is a curve. So you'll see them kind of heat it up, stretch it down. A lot of people use torches, a lot of people use heat guns. It just depends on your skill level. If you haven't been wrapping for very long, you should use a heat gun because you're going to burn it. So, but they've been all wrapping for years, and the torch is just instant heat.
I've never been a fan of wraps. I've always thought they were tacky and not very clean looking. But the guys at Illusions Wraps have really changed my outlook. It's a great way to put a temporary color on the car and allows for some creativity. I wouldn't have been so bold as to pick this color if it were paint. I generally pick safer colors like gray, silver, or white. But I'm so glad I decided to go with a wrap for now, because it allowed me to get more creative. It's also much cheaper than paint, coming in at around $3,000 for the whole car. You could of course do this yourself for even cheaper, but watching these pro installers work has me really glad that I'm not doing it. They would normally get this done in 3 to 5 business days, but my life always has me in a rush with miscellaneous deadlines. So they put all hands on deck to get this car done in an amazing 1 day. Once the wrap is complete, they apply heat to self-heal any scratches that were put on the surface during the install. That's right, this stuff is self-healing.
And that's one of the cool things about the wrap material is that it has a self-healing thing to a certain extent. You know what I mean? You say that and some people think that like you take a key down the side of it and then it's magically going to heal itself. It's not, you know what I mean? But very small light scratches and everything will come out.
The material is self-healing. So with a little bit of heat, or without even putting heat on, if you put it out in the sun on a hot day, it'll take all these hairline scratches out. This is just from squeegeeing it. But running through a car wash or washing it, you'll get scratches all like this. A little bit of heat though, they'll all go away. Can you even see it? No.
We've completed phase 1 of my K-swapped FD build. There's still a long road ahead, but the car is fully functional and now looking amazing. I can't wait for what's in store next for this awesome car.